Kyle Shanahan was on Rich Eisen's show. He has talked about Jimmy Garoppolo being the starter. You and I guessed the other day, like, what exactly does that mean, right? And Kyle gave us kind of a blueprint for how he's looking at the quarterback position. He's been talking about this a little bit, but I thought to Rich, he put it probably in the most basic, straightforward way. And what he said was that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be, quote-unquote, running with the A's, I think is what he called it, the ones. And he'll be our starting quarterback, period. Quote, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to play a rookie quarterback. I'm not going to say that I am going to play a rookie quarterback. That's up to him. Like, that's up to Trey Lance to show me that he's ready to then be in a competition. When Trey Lance shows me that he's ready, then I will let him compete with Jimmy. But until that point in time, so it's not when he shows me he's ready, he gets the job. It doesn't work like that. It's when he is now trying to show me that he's just ready to compete. Jimmy Garoppolo is my starting quarterback. So that Kyle Shanahan has laid it very clearly for us how he's viewing this quarterback situation.
Which I think is fair. Jimmy's your starting quarterback. You make this guy earn it. Because you're not just going to put a guy out there that is not ready. Now, to me, the moment he shows he's ready, and coaches know this better, I think, than personnel guys because they're so much into calling the play, the comfort. The one issue I often have with coaches with this situation is there's like an unquantifiable. It's like, he just feels a little flummoxed out there. Like, what do you mean? You see that pass he just threw? I don't give a shit that if he didn't quite read the end of the play. Like, to me, there's a learning process you have to be open to. But he just has to prove that he can take balls from center, just make the play call, understand the offense. I do think, though, going into the preseason and the preseason games, because let's face it, the last several years, if you just watch Jimmy in the month of August, it looks terrible. I mean, awful. Jimmy is, I don't know how they would describe him as a practice player, but I'd say a preseason player, he can look awful and really, really bad. And to me, if Trey Lance is going out there and making plays, you go in with a plan. Once upon a time, you and I were, when we talked a lot about the Raiders, they went in with Matt Schaub was their starting quarterback. Now, Matt Schaub was not good by the time the Raiders got him. So it was clear, like, you're not going to be able to win with this guy. And then Derek had a really good preseason, and it was clear, like, just go with the more talented guy. Jimmy is much more physically gifted than Matt Schaub, so it'll be hard for Jimmy, even when he looks bad, to look that his balls he throws a harder ball. But I do believe, like, if Trey Lance is would you be stunned if, like, Trey Lance gets a start in the preseason, quote unquote, over Jimmy? Obviously, it wouldn't happen the first preseason game, but what if Kyle's like, yeah, we're just going to play Jimmy. Our plan is to play all 3 preseason games, just a little bit. But by the third game, they just think Trey Lance is making more plays and they start him.
I would not be stunned if he starts a preseason game. No. I would be stunned if he starts a preseason game because he might actually become the starter because he's, quote-unquote, making more plays. That would surprise me if he's able to do that. I mean, even Garoppolo, well, we'll get to stuff that Jimmy has said, but that part would surprise me. Is that what you're saying? Like, that he'd be the starter in a preseason game because he might actually become the starter?
Yeah, I just think that ultimately your play doesn't lie, and the team knows it, the coaches know it. There is, if you're living in it, and you and I now kind of helicopter in and helicopter out pre-corona, and as do, I guess, some media members go to practice every day. But even then, like, if you're not truly, like, the thing the media does not get, that when you work for a team or part of the team, is like the meetings, like the coaching staff meetings where you go over the personnel and really get a vibe of where everyone's standing on the guy. And it changes, it ebbs and flows day to day. And it's a powerful thing. I remember the first time I was ever allowed my first year to go to a personnel meeting with the Eagles. I was like, damn, this is fucking sweet. Hard Knocks. Even though I had been around them for 2 years with Fresno State, the difference is that in college, like, let's get rid of this guy. He's going to cut him. You don't do that. You just end up moving him up or down. Where in the pros, like, guys are playing for jobs, but also you're playing for starting positions, which is a big deal in the pros. And I just think that there's going to be a vibe with how Trey's playing in training camp, good or bad, that ebbs and flows daily that factor in more than just his throws, what he's like in the meeting room, what they think his ability to translate improvement from day to day, that will be hard to tell besides just if you and I were just standing there on the sideline, just he throws a good ball, he's accurate.
Right.
But that is not, with a quarterback, like if you're a running back and you just make some plays, like Matt Breida, you're like, damn, this guy might have something. With a quarterback, there encompasses more because you're basically trusting him to run the team. And that's where I am in agreement it's going to be an uphill battle. But I by no means think that if Trey can come out, because physically he's just way more gifted than Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy's big advantage is understanding, which is a big part of this offense. But physically,
it's a big part of any situation.
Trey's a different animal.
Right. It's a big part of this depends on, I think what it'll be interesting to see do we arrive at a point where Kyle Shanahan's comfortable enough that, we're going to have packages for Trey, but he's not really competing with Jimmy for the starting job, right? We've talked about how they use him. That could be where we arrive by the time the season's here. It's like, I'm happy with where he is, comfortable putting him in games to do specific things. He's not a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo right now today because I'm trying to win football games, right? Like, whatever we think. But Kyle Shanahan.
Sometimes you say that, though, and you're wrong.
Well, absolutely. But but I think when you're trying to win a Super Bowl, this goes back to the Chargers thing last year. They were wrong too. But they were wrong, and their organization was in a different place. Like, they were in a place where it was easy to go, guys, you're not winning a championship this year. Start Justin Herbert. Now, maybe we don't think the Niners are really going to win a Super Bowl this year, but I think they view this year like they're going to try and get back to the Super Bowl. Now, first they got to just be a playoff team. That's how you and I talk about them. But they think they've got, like, they just paid Trent Williams. They think they got a Super Bowl roster. So that's how they view week one, is like, who gives us the best chance to win today? And Kyle Shanahan said it. Like, there's not going to be any question when Trey Lance is ready to compete. When that moment comes, it's not going to be because Trey Lance walked up to me, put his hand on my shoulder and said, Coach, I'm ready. It'll be because everybody can tell that he's ready. I'll be able to tell. His teammates will be able to tell. Jimmy will be able to tell. Anybody watching will be able to tell Trey's ready to compete for the job. And that's when he'll compete for the job. Period. Yeah. But I do think this goes back to Jimmy didn't get traded. Jimmy's worth more to this team than he's worth to other teams. Like, if they wanted a first or a second for him and they were only getting offered a fifth, it makes sense. Because he's worth more to this team now that they've drafted Trey Lance. He's not worth as much to them if they drafted Mac Jones or Justin Fields, who you would think should play right away. But he's worth more to the 49ers than he's worth to other teams. So they're going to treat him that way. Because right now he is their starting quarterback.
One big picture element, and I'm not trying to sprint before we just crawl, but if you go back, let's just say hypothetically they pull off the Alex Smith thing. Jimmy plays this year. They're successful. They win a playoff game.
The Alex Smith Chiefs thing, not the Alex Smith Niners thing.
Well, I guess the Alex Smith Chiefs thing with Mahomes. And he sits for a true year. Maybe depending on how the year goes, if that Week 17 game is meaningless, they can give him a meaningless start like Mahomes, and he was really good in that game. The reason ultimately that worked so seamlessly for the Chiefs is when Mahomes came in the next year, he won the MVP, and they went to the AFC Championship game, and they went to overtime against Tom Brady. So they upgraded immediately, and you knew it.
Right.
I do think it's difficult if you just start Jimmy, and let's say it's one of his every other year, he's healthy this year. They go 10-7, and they win a playoff game. It's like have a successful year. It would be let's say you lose in the second round, but it was like, fuck, you're back, double-digit win team. But next year's Trey Lance's year, because now it's time. Then it's like, the reason it worked for Kansas City is the motherfucker came in and they dominated and he was awesome. Like, that right. Is that you could argue there's more than added pressure on Trey because then he's just got to be good and he hasn't really played. Like, that is, to me, when you start the rookie, the bar's low. Because right now, I hate to say it, everyone talks like the Super Bowl roster. I mean, maybe. I don't even think that. It's a playoff roster. But I like starting. Don't you want to start the rookie with a playoff level roster? Wasn't that the best thing that ever happened with Russell Wilson?
Yeah, again, ideally,
Mahomes?
But the guy has to be ready. Like, all of this stuff is just hypothetical until the guy's ready to play.
But the guy's ready to play. Part of the reason he's not ready, and looking back at Mahomes, would the Chiefs have been better off if Mahomes had started for a rookie? They'll never truly know, but I could make the argument probably. Do they lose in that first round to Mariota? Maybe not. Like, so is it ready just because the short term? Maybe. But just because you have Jimmy Garoppolo, it's not. I get it if you have, like, Aaron Rodgers. But it's not like you got a Pro Bowl player. He's just better, just because of quote-unquote experience. But I do think if you take the big picture view, I don't think it would be crazy at all if we went, is he truly ready? Probably not, but we're just starting him. Now, clearly they're not going to do that. But to act like that's not an option to me is stupid.
Yeah, but the question is, what does ready mean? Does ready? This is where I go back to my comment
Who's
about
ever ready for anything?
no,
though?
but this is where I go back to my comment about training wheels. What does ready mean to Kyle Shanahan? Does ready mean can execute the offense exactly like Jimmy Garoppolo can, or does ready mean can do enough that I feel comfortable with him on the field, right? And that's I don't know what ready means. We'll see. But I do think there's a difference between him, even than Mahomes, certainly than Herbert, just given the amount of football all those guys played. Now, I do think he's clearly open-minded to it. Like he said, I'm not going to say I'm not going to play a rookie. I'm not going to say I am. I haven't seen this guy in the field in a Niners uniform yet. So I do think he's open-minded to playing him. And given his experience with RG3, my guess is if he can give you enough plays on one end that it limits some of the stuff you can do on the other end. In other words, he can do some stuff Jimmy can't do, but there's also a few things you're not ready to do with him yet. My guess is he's going to get an opportunity. If he's at that point, then he's going to get an opportunity to compete. And the other thing is Jimmy historically has not been as consistent or productive as Alex Smith, right? Like that's the other difference. Like Alex, what did Alex do that year that Pat Mahomes was on the bench?
Well, I think he had his best year of his career.
So, okay. Like that's another part of it, right? Like Tyrod Taylor has never had the year that Alex Smith had. Jimmy Garoppolo has played 1 year as a starter. So, Patrick Mahomes wasn't kept on the bench by a middle-of-the-road performer that year.
No, but I think we both agree Alex is a better player than Jimmy. And Alex's last season for the Chiefs, like if you tell me Jimmy gives them 26-5, like, yeah, I mean, I don't expect Jimmy to do that. So, and that's
right. No, I understand. I'm just saying, like, that's where I think the situations are a little different potentially.
I would go into this thinking I by no means think Jimmy is some lock. Now, I don't know if that means week 1, week 3. I'm pretty open-minded to the situation just because this guy might just be way more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Absolutely.
And Jimmy's
might be more ready than we think.
Yeah. And you don't truly know till they practice. And like Kyle says, but you do know. And they'll have a vibe like we got something special. Or it's like, okay, this guy's a legit project. Then to me, if that's the case, okay, then you got times on your side. That's where Jimmy does come in.
Yeah, as long as, to your point, as long as
but is he the third
like,
stringer? Or is he the
as long as
backup?
it doesn't look like Jordan Love. Whatever Jordan Love looks like, couldn't tell you because they've been keeping him underground, I think.